発進するよ。3、2、1、発進。 OK、グッドラック。市街地から侵入してください。
On the last episode of Bullet Heaven HD, we took a look at Rising Star Games' release of the super hardcore DoDonPachi Resurrection. And while it wasn't as approachable as other cave titles such as Mushihime-sama Futari and Escalada 2, it was still quite a decent game in the end. And yeah, a little on the stupid hard side, especially for the true final boss. As it turns out though, Resurrection is not where DoDonPachi as a series ends. Enter DoDonPachi SaiDaiOuJou, or Maximum Death, which originally saw release in arcades in April of 2012.
As the sixth game within the DonPachi series, if you count DoDonPachi 2 B-Storm that is, SaiDaiOuJou subsequently made its way to the Xbox 360 as DoDonPachi SaiDaiOuJou Con in May 2013 with a host of extra modes, unlockables, and even mission-based challenges. Mixing elements of both blissful death and resurrection with a brand new set of features and a fresh coat of paint, SaiDaiOuJou is a DoDonPachi that's definitely unlike any before it. But something feels a bit off here. Let's take a closer look.
目標を発見。攻撃へ移行してください。片付けるわよ。
Much like the other DoDonPachis we've taken a look at so far, there are 3 different ships to choose from, piloted by female pilots known as dolls. Choosing what weaponry your doll will use can determine how hard the game will be for you. With the shot type, rapid fire is emphasized and laser fire is less powerful, but the game is a bit easier since your range of fire is enhanced. Laser type will boost your power of the laser, but rapid is a lot less effective. Expert has both enhanced laser and rapid fire, but your opposition will be fiercely intense. In many of these 3 modes, you can select whether auto bomb is on or off. This is known as the dress system, and apparently the skimpier your doll, the more powerful she is.
All 3 ships have different rates of speed, which hasn't been a factor in the series until now, with the Red Fighter being the fastest and the helicopter the slowest. As usual, the 8-way movement remains constant when rapid fire is engaged, and halved when lasers are fired. The control setup has been greatly altered though. Instead of rapid being mapped to a shoulder trigger to free up a face button for other functions, it's mapped to the X button instead. Lasers are activated when holding A, and both bombs and hyper are mapped to B, with hyper taking priority. To that end, Resurrection still has a better control setup, since you can use your bombs or hypers independently when the hyper gauge is filled.
The new control setup isn't the only thing that feels weird about SaiDaiOuJou. The hypers don't function the same way they do in Resurrection. Rather than being able to clear out enemy shots are cleared upon activation only. Even the enemy fire in your ship itself will take a lot of getting used to. The ships in SaiDaiOuJou are tiny, really tiny in fact. This makes their hitbox a bit on the large size comparatively. In addition, the shot patterns that enemies will fire are much more dense and less forgiving. Many times I would try to squeeze through a pattern that would normally have been really easily cleared in Resurrection despite the daring attempt, only to end up getting wasted.
When you have at least 1 level to your hyper, you will also have a small display appear under your ship as well. This can lead to quite a bit of confusion, since the shape of your sprite in the periphery of your vision will make the center look like it's lower than it actually is, which leads to some stupid, dumb, pointless, frustrating deaths. SaiDaiOuJou is a hard game. In many ways, it's more spiteful than Resurrection, even in novice and especially in 2-player co-op. The rank is higher by default, and the fire patterns have a tendency to track differently, making the game feel quite different than the solo stage set. At least the intense lasers from Resurrection Stage 5 aren't here, but at the same time, some of the biggest bonuses come from laser cancels in that game.
Any way you slice it though, SaiDaiOuJou is a really tough game in most respects, but there are some things you can do to assist you in getting further. When you complete a game, whether or not you get to the end, you'll get awarded with coins for use in a shop. In addition to a ton of wallpapers, there are also all kinds of enhancements that can be applied to a game session, such as auto-hyper, shields that cancel bullets at the cost of a bomb, as well as the ability to shrink your bullets or even your ship. In addition to gameplay sessions, you can also obtain coins from the often challenging missions available in Arcade HD. These missions can be pretty tough at times, but when you're able to surpass them, the game itself will seem much easier. There's also a tweaked version 1.5 mode here as well, which changes some of the scoring parameters and makes things feel ever so slightly different, but not easier.
When you finally do get the hang of things, SaiDaiOuJou can actually get reasonably enjoyable, especially in the 360 mode. In this mode, you take control of the Xbox 360 exclusive Saya and the Type D fighter. There are no lives or bomb stock in this mode. Instead, there is an energy gauge at the bottom of the screen that depletes when lasers are fired or bombs are used, whether intentionally or via autobomb. Hyper levels are often much easier to build up and are not only useful for decimating the entire world, but also for recovering your energy gauge. Rank also gets pretty high fairly quickly, but ends up being pretty manageable and fairly easy to 1cc.
よろしいですか。何を急に改まっちゃって。
SaiDaiOuJou has 3 core modes to its gameplay, and in turn its scoring. The core game is Arcade Novice and Arcade HD. In these modes, your score will get a nice boost from collecting medals, which have an applied total hit count multiplier, just like in all the other DoDonPachi games. This applied score will go to 1,000 points for large medals and 500 points for small ones. An additional bonus up to 5,000 points is also awarded for super close range kills, indicated in orange.
When hypers are used, all shots on screen are converted to medals as well, and as the hit counter grows with your boosted attack, so too will the multiplier attached to it, until the hyper runs out. While in hyper, there will also be many more medals on screen, with boosted counts for higher hyper levels. Given the longer time in hyper with a higher level, more medals are an obvious result.
Bombing will also result in medals for defeated enemies, but all bullets cancelled on screen will not convert over. However, if you can maintain a maximum bomb stock and collect an additional bomb, you will engage maximum mode, which will earn you a constant multiplied base score for every 3 frames of animation or less. Your score goes nuts when this happens and climbs very quickly, especially above maximum level 3.
The series' trademark B counters also make an appearance as well, climbing in value based on the number collected with an additional 2x multiplier after the final B is collected. You will also get a hypercharge of 1% for every 50 hits to a maximum of 30% to build your hyper gauge quicker. The final pickup will also get you 1 full hyper level. The score will reset back to the base 5,000 if you die though.
Then there's version 1.5. This game mode is by and large identical to the original arcade and novice modes, except for a couple of things. Firstly, the maximum chain bonus rises and falls according to the amount of hits you have, much like in Resurrection. The higher the better, obviously. Bomb Max is also tweaked and incorporates your rank level into your per frame score boost.
In addition, if you engage a hyper attack of level 6 or higher, all medals dropped will be large, regardless of enemy types. This, in turn, will give you a much higher bonus. The B bonus is also tweaked to give you 1% for every 200 hits instead of 50, to a maximum of 100%. The all collect is identical though.
Scoring in the Xbox 360 mode is also mostly identical to your core modes, but also very different when it comes to the B bonus specifically. Your score will be boosted by 1,000 times the max hit counter for every B collected in the shot type, and 10,000 times the max hit for laser and expert.
Finally, at the end of any stage in all modes, there is a tally for all medal types collected, current hit bonuses, and a no-miss bonus if you get through unscathed. When you perfect your scoring skills, the Xbox Live leaderboards allow top players to show off their skills in the worldwide arena. It's not quite as fun or as satisfying on the whole compared to Resurrection, but it's still fun enough to keep at it to see how high you can go.
Now, the gameplay in SaiDaiOuJou isn't exactly winning us over here, but at least the presentation is decent, if perhaps a bit un-DoDonPachi in the end. There's a certain something missing here, and it's really difficult to narrow down exactly what that might be. So what is it?
Visually, the art is clean and well produced, though some of the dresses that your pilots wear can be a bit on the lowly side. The sprites and backgrounds are also noticeably brighter than past installments as well. As nice as everything looks though, it almost seems like there's a real lack of animation to the sprites, most notably in the bosses. Blissful Death demonstrated some amazing animation even on the PS2, so SaiDaiOuJou feels a little chunky in this respect.
Another very strange feeling thing is the animated opening to the game, which is unlike anything the series has really seen before. Granted, it is pretty snappy, and a nice addition to the game as a whole. Sound-wise too, most everything is very well produced, but doesn't quite have the right feel. The music is pretty amazing stuff, loaded with crazy dubstepped riffs and some seriously nostalgic feeling tunage in Stage 4 specifically. As with Resurrection, some of the tunes here are nicely remixed versions of previous games' themes. But again, it just doesn't seem to have quite the right flavor. The VO in SaiDaiOuJou isn't all that bad, but the Xbox 360 version is rife with nearly needless chatter throughout the entire game. Great for story, awful for concentration. And while you could turn it off, you'll miss the audio cues for the hyper gauge and your extends.
There is also a number of screen settings for players of all monitor sizes, though all of the screen resolutions are more or less in HD. Of course, the screen can be all tate'd up, and there are even a bunch of wallpapers for tate that can be unlocked as well.
I'm so conflicted about this game. It's well produced, sure, but the control changes from Resurrection, the too picky hitbox, overdense bullet patterns, and the off-flavor presentation really make me wonder if it could ever be better than DoDonPachi Resurrection. I guess then that there's no better time to stack it up. DoDonPachi SaiDaiOuJou doesn't feel as tight or as smooth as Resurrection, and a lot of adjustment might be required to traverse the intense, overdense enemy fire.
The control here is just not up to Cave standards.
This is a really hard game, often even more spiteful than Resurrection.
This game hates you, especially in 2-player. Brutal and unforgiving in arcade in 1.5, but Xbox 360 mode is manageable for a 1cc.
There are enough modes here to make for a long playtime. The amount of practice needed to 1cc this game will definitely add to this.
Given the many modes and challenge stages, there's a lot to do here, so there's a decent length as a result.
The visuals in DoDonPachi SaiDaiOuJou are actually pretty good, but maybe not as polished as in other games, especially Blissful Death.
Character design is pretty cute, and the sprites are clean and detailed, if a bit less impressive animation-wise.
The OST here is also very good with all kinds of standout pieces. In Xbox 360 mode though, there's too much dialogue and some wonky sound balance by default.
I wasn't as sold on the OST as I was in Resurrection, but it works in an off-flavor kind of way.
SaiDaiOuJou has an inferior control scheme and mechanics that just don't measure up to Resurrection in the end. The Xbox 360 version changes things up nicely, which redeems the package a bit, but overall still just doesn't stand up to most, if not all, of the series' previous entries.
There was nothing here that was an improvement over Resurrection or even Blissful Death, save for the addition of unlockable assist abilities to help you get further. The dress system isn't too bad though.
You may think we hate this game, but we still had a decent amount of fun with it. It's just not up to par with the other DoDonPachi games that we've played so far is all. Regardless, DoDonPachi SaiDaiOuJou gets a respectable 3.5 out of 5. Since this game was only just released to market at the end of May 2013, prices are still a little up there, typically around $70. Some outlets like AmiAmi.com have had them on sale for as little as $40 or so after conversion from the Japanese yen. Make sure to avoid eBay though, cause that shit is way overpriced. In the end, SaiDaiOuJou is still a worthwhile game to play, and since it's region free, anyone can do it.